I made a bunch of notes, like usual, because I don't trust my brain to keep track of the shit that I want to talk about.
Same here.
Thirded.
I wish that wasn't the case. I'm always like, yeah, I should just, commit it to memory, and then, like, I don't know, I know my brain will fail.
Do you want to start taking those, like, memory booster things that are almost certainly garbage?
They're garbage.
Yeah.
I've looked into them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't think anything really works except Adderall. So.
No. Okay.
So.
Yeah, I never even looked into it. I just assumed, like, there's just nothing that's going to help.
There's a lot of shit that seems to be catering to, like, the Silicon Valley crowd and, all these brain boosters and memory enhancers and performance enhancers. It all just seems like garbage.
Yeah, I've tried a few of them. Never noticed any difference. I think B vitamins are the most effective thing I've ever had.
Yep.
Everything else is kind of like.
And if you notice, a lot of these
garbage.
have B vitamins in them. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
Essentially, it's just a way to make people overpay for vitamin B.
Or maybe just, like, not living in a perpetual state of feeling constantly overwhelmed and stressed out beyond belief would help my memory.
That's ridiculous.
That's the thing, dude. Like, the most proven shit, it boils down to sleep, caffeine, vitamin B, Adderall. Like, that'll boost the shit out of your brain. And nothing else will fucking top any of that. Oh, Mr. B-Man joining us.
Got a visitor.
Hey, buddy. What do you have to say about Behringer? Yes, I agree.
Clones.
Mad that we're
What's up, buddy?
invading his basement again.
They say they're just bringing rare stuff back, but then they do an IntelliGels Quad VCA. I know, right?
I forgot about that already.
The foreplay?
Yeah. We're recording. I guess we should just segue into episode 31.
Well, should we
Start off with
ask
some foreplay.
Bad Boy's permission? I mean, obviously he's come down here to tell us something. One of it may be you have to stop recording and get the fuck out.
He came down here to tell us get the fuck out, Yeah. Back again, face to face.
Yep.
For the second time in a long time. For episode 31.
It's true.
It's all true.
Sipping on some green tea, courtesy of Nick. Dash of honey.
A dash of honey.
A dash of honey. It's the first caffeine that I've drank in years.
Really?
Yes.
I mean, I guess that's true. I know you didn't drink coffee, but I didn't realize there was no caffeine.
Yeah, I cut it all out a few years back. Basically, when my insomnia was at its peak worst, I was like, I definitely need to eliminate any possible triggers.
Yeah.
So I just eliminated caffeine entirely.
So your tolerance is real low, so you're about to get
extremely low.
Fucked up.
I think I'm already buzzing a little.
Oh, really?
Bit.
Yeah.
I put Adderall in there when you were
Fuck yeah.
and some nutraceuticals and brain pills.
So I guess we can point out early on, if you hear noise in the recording, it's because we got the air conditioner running and we're in the middle of a mild heat wave.
It's hot.
So if it's noisy, tough shit. We're hot.
Sticky sweet from our head
To our feet.
Exactly. You know where I was going with that.
What you sipping on there, Dave, with your biodegradable straw?
That biodegradable straw is already falling apart.
That's how they do.
Yeah, this is just cold brew from Big Dog. I think I've had that in previous episodes. It's still
typical Dave go-to.
It is my go-to because it is like 700 feet from my house. It's very close, and I like the people that work there, like the owner, and it's dog friendly. Obviously, it's a cool place. If you're in Pittsburgh, you should check it out. But yeah, the biodegradable straw. I think they should just move to the sippy cup top that other places have gone with. The straw
Sippy cup.
and the I'm all in favor of the straw. Let's like try not to make things worse for the environment that we've already fucked up. But that is not a good solution.
Nope.
Syrup is still syrup in a sippy cup. In a sippy cup.
Yeah, I had the sippy cup earlier because I got an iced coffee from Bitter Ends today. The sippy cup's the way to go, for sure.
Yeah.
It's definitely much better.
Like if I pulled this out, it may actually just break in half
Right.
at some point. That's how bad it is. Like you basically the clock is ticking the second they put that into any like moisture.
Yeah.
And I'm long past that point, so I can't. it's not structurally sound anymore.
It's like just like drinking through a newspaper at that point.
Paper mache at best.
Surprised you don't have like your own special like metal straw.
That's a good idea. Well, what I typically have done is ask them to not put a straw in it whatsoever and just take the lid off when I go to drink it.
Yeah.
That's unheard of, dude.
It is. I mean, I'm a bold pioneer.
Drinking out of a cup.
Yep.
Yes. Just
Crazy.
Yeah.
Right
crazy.
out of it.
But I had to drive over here, so I was like,
Then the ice hits your teeth, and it's cold, and it's like, ow, ice on my teeth.
I've literally never heard anyone had that problem before.
Just me? Okay.
Yeah, I don't like the metal straws, though. Those scare me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a little terrified.
I've had that conversation with my sister 'cause she's like all about them, and I'm like, look, when I was a kid, I used to always chew on my pens,
Yeah.
and I had my pen in my mouth, and one time I reached down to pick something up, and I accidentally kneed the pen that was in my mouth, and stabbed myself into the roof of my mouth, and I had to go to the hospital.
Oh my god!
Because I made a fucking pretty significant hole in the top of my mouth. You don't realize it, but it's kind of soft up there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Anything metal with a little bit of force can go right up in there. It's kind of freaky. And then it's real fun to eat for the next 2 weeks while it heals. Yeah, it sucks.
Oh. Should we add a warning or something to this before we get into this part of it? Because that made me like a little lightheaded how gross that was. Like just the idea of thinking of that was like, you puncture it so bad, like your sinuses are draining just like directly into your mouth. And like you're going to eat food and like, no, that's not okay. Oh God, dude. Yeah, no.
Warning, we're seeking out metal straw sponsorships.
Or we were.
Damn it. We blew that one too. Fuck.
And I wasn't afraid of metal straws, but now I absolutely
terror.
am. Yeah.
Yeah.
New nightmare fuel for you.
I just assumed I'd keep losing them.
Yeah. It wouldn't, or I'd not be able to clean it, or I'd like,
Right.
yeah, there's a whole bunch of shit about that I don't like.
Yeah. Just give me a sippy cup.
Yeah.
A sippy cup.
You know what I'm talking about? There's like the plastic.
Oh, no,
cups.
yeah, I know what you
Okay.
mean.
Yeah.
I'm
Like, I don't want you to
being
imagine,
weird,
like-
and I'm singing a Melanie Martinez song. Because
What now?
exactly.
Who?
'Cause I'm a nerd.
I don't know who this is. Can you sing
Oh,
the
we've-
song for us?
I just did.
Yeah.
That's the chorus. Syrup is still syrup in a sippy cup.
Is there more to it than that? Also, I don't think you're doing it in the right tone.
No.
Like, just sing it for the listeners.
I even saw her live, Dave. But don't tell anyone. That's a secret.
My lips are sealed.
Did I thought we talked about this movie once before. Well, obviously not on the episode, but you seeing them live. And is it like a reference to codeine and promethazine?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
know if it was like innocent or if it was
No. Well, that's
lean.
that's her thing. Like, she does everything with like this living doll, big baby fucking aesthetic, but it's all like kind of twisted, and there's like it's meant to look innocent on the surface, but it's
Yeah.
all about like
Drugs and sex.
drugs and sex and like abusive parents and toxic relationships and that type of fun shit.
Right. But like, if you wanted to,
Being
you
ridiculed for being a freak and all that type of shit.
Okay. I'm not familiar with them. I'll have to check this out. You're familiar with them?
only through Greg.
Okay.
Through talking about this once before and being like, what the fuck?
Right.
We're just starting and we're already 10 minutes like way off guess I'll bring it back. Well, we didn't get to cover what you're drinking. What you
Yeah,
got
that's
there?
right.
Yeah, just lemon spindrift, which I think isn't the first time I've had one on the show. Semi-classic that I luckily left in your fridge and had one because I forgot a drink on the way over. Didn't want to stop.
So yeah, let's swing it back around. We started to. Bad Boy wanted us to talk about Behringer and the foreplay. Do we have anything to say about it? I mean, I feel like the internet has litigated this up and down.
Yeah.
I think it's the first time anyone has ripped off IntelliGel, right? So there's that. That's a new milestone.
Yeah, probably.
I'm just drawing a blank on anything else. I mean, I'm thinking like the MIDI. I feel like that MIDI interface that they had has been done, but like I don't not exactly chip by chip.
Well, I think their MIDI interface was already kind of a knockoff of Doper.
Right. I think there was just like that one is a legitimate. Everyone's just doing that.
It's kind of funny to me though, because originally IntelliGel seemed like they were a more like interesting Dopefer. You know what I mean? Like their prices were relatively cheap, and they had very basic utility stuff. Over time, though, it's like the prices have gone up, and they've gotten a little, more boutique-ish with some of their shit. Still, they got a fair amount of like utility, and to see them get ripped off by Behringer, it's like I don't know, kind of strange. And rip off of a rip.
Right. But I think there's something about like IntelliGel was bringing an interesting design. They were making things that were smaller typically. So they're taking up a smaller footprint. Their layouts were, they added at least something to it. When you look at that Behringer 4-play,
there's nothing added to it.
Yeah, nothing at all.
It's identical. It really does look identical. And like I was saying before we recorded, it looks like it may actually be like the same panel layout almost verbatim.
Yeah, they couldn't even do anything with that, which is interesting because it's not like it's the ultimate panel layout to start with. It was just like, wow, you just really wanted to go there with it.
It almost seemed like a deliberate, like, fuck you, we're not pretending anymore.
Right.
And was anyone asking for it? There's a lot of VCAs out there. There's a lot of different solutions to this. Like, why was that the one that they picked?
I was curious about that too. It just seemed kind of random.
Tangle Quartet or something like that. Like there are choices. Maybe was it like hard to get at some point? I've never used that quad VCA, but I know sometimes IntelliGel, like a lot of the times it's because they can't get the panels made for like their 1U stuff. It turned out that's why all that stuff was really hard to get for a while. So I don't know. I don't think they solved any problems by cloning that, but it's weird.
But I mean, once again, we were talking about Behringer. I mean, it's a good way for them to just constantly be on everyone's tip of their tongue.
True.
Like, there's no such thing as bad publicity. But in any case, is there really anything else we want to talk about Behringer? I mean, I feel like I don't even know if I really want to give them too much more of my consideration or
not
thought.
really of that product, but I did have notes about the BARP.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
yeah.
As much as the thought of owning a Behringer synth kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth, I'm finding myself oddly attracted to the BARP.
So why is it that one that's standing out compared to the other ones, other clones?
Because it doesn't seem like a straight up ripoff. First off, it seems to like play off of the 2600 model, but it offers a little differences to it, and the price is insanely cheaper than any other. I mean, it's a synth that everyone has knocked off already.
Right.
You know what I mean? From software to hardware, and the Korg version is unobtainium, really, and the price is astronomical. So I'm kind of all for the thought of someone making one that is cost effective, you know what I mean, and sounds decent enough. The demos that I've listened to, I don't hear it and immediately go, oh yeah, that's an ARP 2600, but for like a semi-modular desktop synth that has an ARP-ish sound, I'm like, I'm kind of sold on it for $600 fucking bucks.
That price is absurd.
And they got that Rob Keeble dude from AM Synths to clone all that stuff too.
Right, he did the filters, which has like the 2 different modes, and I'm like, that's pretty fucking cool. I think we discussed that in a previous episode. Like that was what made it eye-catching in the first place, was the fact that he was handling the filter, and I was like, okay, that's adding some authenticity to this.
Yeah,
right.
But yeah, ever since moving and buying this house and encountering some plumbing problems and shit like that, like my finances have been lower than usual. You know what I mean? So like the thought of like,
I can't believe you didn't just say fucked.
There's fucked.
Okay.
Yeah. I've sold some gear to offset the fuckedness of it, the fuckery of it all. But now that I have like a downsized rig, I don't really see myself being able to boost it back up anytime soon. So like the thought of an ARP 2600, which is roughly the cost of like a module or two, seems really appealing. Like I could get a lot of functionality out of that, and it's fully compatible with my rig at the moment, with its semi-modular interface. So kind of given some serious thought to getting either the Gray Meanie or the Blue Marvin edition, which costs like $100 more, but according to demos has a slightly clearer, brighter sound overall, and it has the actual spring verb instead of a digital emulation.
Yeah, it seems like they got some fixes in there too.
Yeah.
Some other shit.
So probably worth the extra $100 in my opinion. But they say that both of those versions are limited, and everything that I've looked into so far, the gray version, the gray mini, doesn't even seem available for pre-order. So I don't even know if that version's ever going to actually exist. Like, there's a couple YouTube demos showing it, and I'm like, cool. So there's some prototypes, but like if you go to like Sweetwater and things like that, the only one that's available to pre-order is the blue Marvin. And that is also like undetermined when it's actually going to be available.
Right. To give them some sort of leeway here. Everyone's up in the air with all of the component problems. So like, even if it was a specific date, you'd have to take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, that's why I didn't pre-order, because I'm like, who knows how long my money would actually be wrapped up in that. So.
I mean, I pre-ordered a beads and eventually canceled my pre-order because it was like, no one has any idea when that was going to come out.
I'm not big into pre-orders to begin with, but
I've got something on pre-order right now.
Yeah.
What's that?
I don't want to derail, but I pre-ordered the Oxy 1 a couple months ago. It's that sequencer with the button grid.
I don't think I'm familiar.
Yeah, it's like a CV gate and MIDI sequencer with like a button grid on it. Some company from Spain, and they did an Indiegogo that got funded pretty well.
Okay.
But yeah, it looks awesome. It's got like mono style button grid that kind of does chord stuff, very similar in size and functionality of the MIDI sequencing of the Deluge in ways. But it's got 8 pairs of CV gate outs on it, which is pretty awesome. Plus the MIDI out, and it looks kind of like something that could drive everything. Interesting like probability features, and like they've put a lot of thought into sequencing. Some polyphonic modes, which is kind of part of why I wanted to get it, is I wanted to try some more polyphonic stuff with the modular recently, especially since the ER301 is getting better at accommodating for that, but I don't have a sequencer that will do that very well, because the Westlake Performer, you can't do like MIDI to like poly CV out. The Squarp Hair Mod, I used to be able to do that with it, but I hated that module. So this kind of might fill that gap, but it won't. I don't even know if it'll be out till like December. So it's definitely a long game. But they're very transparent so far with everything. They just updated yesterday being like, yeah, we finished like our last components and we actually have all of them, so we can actually produce this. And like we have 500 MCUs and we have all the OLED displays that we need. So it's like, okay, it seems like there's a reasonably good chance. And there was a good loop hop, is that how you say his fucking
Loop
name?
hop, yeah.
Loop hop review. And it seemed functioning, and he admitted like, yeah, there's some software bugs, which shocked. Nothing like that won't have them, but it was functioning and it looked like as fun as I imagined it to be. So I'm pretty hyped on that, hoping it pans out.
I wish more manufacturers right now would be that transparent.
Yeah.
About like their component situation. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Totally.
I mean, it's not a secret. I mean, everyone knows it's an industry problem. You might as well just...
But you don't see many saying like, you know, availability of stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or delays, or, you know, when things will actually be available. Especially Behringer, which I guess isn't all that surprising. But like, yeah, they haven't said shit that I could find about like the situation on anything. They just keep announcing more and more products, but none of them are like rolling out. Yeah. You know, aside from like the what is it, the TR3 or TB3? What the fuck did they call their 303? TD3, yeah. Aside from that, like, that came out in abundance, and that's like the only thing over to like the last year or two that has like rolled out following their announcements of it. So
true. Not much else has come out. Some modules. That's about it.
Yeah, they just keep announcing more and more shit, but you don't see any of it. It's like, okay, at this point, like, are they just trolling us, or is any of this stuff actually going to come out?
Did you see the one on the Wave, where they did the clone of the PPG Wave, and you can beta test it, but you have to have an original PPG Wave. You have to have a YouTube Pro account or something like that. And you basically have to do like, yeah, we'll give you a free Wave. And it sounds like they've totally just offloaded their QA to a bunch of people with Waves who are going to just waste hundreds of hours, I bet, to get like a free machine.
Yeah.
I can't imagine many people are going to want to fuck with that. Like, you already have a Wave, dude. Just fucking use your Wave.
Right. But you'll be the first to get them sweet, sweet YouTube views.
Yeah. Oh, that's...
I mean, the first person
probably
will.
the real driver.
But the reality is, though, that's probably just one person's going to gain that, and then after that's done, the interest is going to taper off.
Yeah,
you know, like so, like basically, like it's a race.
Yeah.
For that first person to be the influencer on this, and then there's probably no reason to be involved
I
whatsoever.
didn't think about that. There are people that probably buy a fucking wave just to do that.
Yeah,
yeah.
the influencer war that I've been watching unfold on YouTube lately is kind of disgusting.
Yeah.
Like, it really is. Like, the fucking, what was it, the new Korg product that just was announced?
Mod wave.
The Mod Wave, the new version of that. Like, it was interesting to see, like, the race for everyone to put their video up first or their post, you know what I mean? And I was just like, ugh. Like, how many of these are actually valuable? You know what I mean? How many were just rushed, you know?
Right.
And a lot of them even said, like, oh, you know, we weren't paid for this, but they did give us this product, and they just, you know, asked that we feature it or whatever the fuck. And it's like, okay, that's cool, but, like, I don't know.
Kind of paid in that way, but you know.
Yeah. And it's also like when you're racing to be first, that doesn't mean you're racing to be the best. So a lot of them are like just.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
how many of these videos are actually valuable when they're
Right.
just racing to put it out first? And
We're going to talk about it later, but that first LXR Mark II video that everyone was going nuts
God.
about, that was the
dog
most.
shit.
It was absolute dog shit. Literally, they probably unpacked it earlier that day and were like, "Well, I'm going to be the first."
Yeah.
Plugged it in, plugged the camera in, and just started tinkering. And I was like, and it worked. I mean, that video was going around like crazy, but it was absolutely disservice to the product.
yeah,
Got that Matrix front page though.
Did.
I think one of the most common comments we've received and like feedback that we've received on like the forums and, you know, messages and shit like that has always been like people enjoy the fact that we aren't shilling for products unless we're genuinely enthusiastic about it. We're not getting sponsored. We're not getting paid. Like, anything that we review, it's just because we feel inspired to fucking talk about it.
Now, to be clear, that is not because we have integrity. It's because people have recognized that we are not worth sending product to. So we can recontextualize it as like, look at how much integrity and honesty we have. But it's easy to do when no one is tempting you.
Yeah. I mean, if there really isn't any major influencers right now that, to me, seem authentic at this point.
Right.
Like, it's like they've all kind of, for lack of a better term, sold out at this point. Like, even Mylar Melodies. Like, he was someone that I used to think, like, okay, yeah, he's generally showing off shit that he likes to jam on and make some techno on. And he's a skilled musician and shit, so I always thought he was authentic. But his last few videos, I'm just like, man, you're literally just, like, shilling.
Do you think DivKid, though, does strike a pretty good balance for that stuff?
DivKid isn't a reviewer.
That's true.
He does technical overviews and demos, which I love and appreciate, and that's why I only ever watched his videos, and I still do today. Because, you know what I mean? Like, yes, he's getting a lot of free shit from people now to do a technical overview, but he's not really, like, gushing about shit or, like, you know what I mean?
And he's deep diving into it before he even starts his video.
His videos are actually fucking educational, you know what I mean? Like, so, yeah.
Loop Up's pretty good, too.
Yeah.
He does good overviews, too, but a lot of times I feel like he's just, I don't know, he's not going after gear that is interesting to him. He's just reviewing whatever the fuck was sent his way.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
No doubt.
And he will point out a few negatives here and there, and I'm like, okay, that's cool, but more often than not, I feel like he's just kind of like, he's not shilling, but he's also just kind of like a glorified commercial. You know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like there needs to be more balance out there. People that are willing to take on the influencer role and get free shit from companies, but also put it through its actual fucking paces.
Yeah. I think people could take the leap, though, and not rush that first one out. Because at the end of the day, if you're a good reviewer, people are going to want to see your review.
Right.
You know, and not just see, like, the first one. Because obviously, like, us in the LXR one, it was just, like, not a good... It didn't give us any info.
Not at all. Yeah.
Except maybe it showed that it had 4 bars.
Granted, that guy that did that, I think his name was Synth DIY guy or whatever. Like, he doesn't seem like his channel is typically dedicated to being an influencer. No. You know what I mean? So
he may have stumbled on this role.
Yeah. Maybe he just somehow got his hands on an LXR02 and didn't know what else to do for a video aside from just scroll through presets. But that video had zero value for me. I don't even think he touched the sliders, which is like the new.
No,
well, I guess we could just jump into it, right? Like, we're kind of.
Well.
I just want to point out though that all of these influencers are basically they're racing for second place behind us.
Right.
Now that we're on YouTube.
Yes.
And basically dominating the airwaves.
Like.
Yeah.
YouTube has never been the same.
Nope.
No,
Since we stepped foot into that domain.
Fucking the game up.
But yeah, the LXR2.
LXR2, a digital drum synthesis machine.
It's weird because we recently started talking about this again, even though it's a pretty old machine.
I think it was our very last episode.
Because I sat on that kit for a million years and then put it together and was like, oh shit, this thing's amazing. And then got the 60 knobs and was like, this is also amazing. So the fact that we've very recently unearthed this due to my laziness and procrastination, it's weird that we just recently we were talking about the Mark I and now the Mark II, basically out of nowhere.
Yeah. The code repo for it had been touched in 6 years until apparently now.
That's the thing. This O2 version, it's a collaboration between Erica Synths and Sonic Potions, who put out the first one. Who kind of, I guess they still exist.
They kind of fell off a little.
They fell off a lot.
They made some modules, but that kind of petered off too. They open source.
They never released half the modules that they announced a few years ago.
Never came out. Penrose came out, and maybe the delay or the filter or something.
I think it might have been the filter. I know the reverb never came to be.
No, and their shop is routinely down or closed. Yeah, and even just selling kits and products of their existing stuff fell off pretty hard.
Totally. Yeah. So I feel like this is more of a adoption than a collaboration by Erica Synths. They're kind of like, oh, we're gonna scoop this little baby up off the doorstep and give it a good home.
And they made the OG metal case for it too.
It
started off Perspex, case, and Erica made the first metal one, which is what you have.
That's the one I have.
And what I still have.
That's what I had as well. I
did changed the game for it.
Yeah, I did the transplant when I had mine. I took it out of the plexiglass and
even had the back that was ready for the CV expansion.
Yeah, that was the main reason why I got it. Because
Same.
I bought the expansion kit. And I was like, well, if I'm going to bother to make that, it needs to be in a proper case that can accommodate it. So I got the Erica Synths metal case. But yeah, it looks like they scooped this up. They made some enhancements. Kind of made it their own thing now.
It's smaller.
It's smaller, and aesthetically, it looks like their other desktop standalone instruments. So if you have an Erica bassline or Zen delay or something, it's going to look fitting right next to it. You know what I mean? It jives with their lineup and their look.
And it kind of looks like it has the basics of the LXR Mark I, but it has the additional row, and it has those faders per channel.
Yeah.
So that seems like that's a pretty big form factor change as opposed to having the sort of buttons per channel.
I love sliders on drum machines.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
The sliders that they added to the TR8S and the TR8 and all that. I like that vibe. It just makes it that much more friendly for performance, which
absolutely
the LXR kind of always begged to be used as a performance instrument, but was always kind of too flaky to rely on. You know what I mean? People have done it. I think you guys have done it. I've seen Morgan do it, but I never felt confident enough of mine to use it in a live setting. I always expected it to short out, or
I always know that that's an option in a way that other gear doesn't necessarily have, and that's why I will not take it out again, even with the 60 knobs, and the 60 knobs increased its performance capabilities, but for volume, it still has those tiny little knobs where a fader so much more easy to perform with.
Definitely.
So now I'm going to preface all of this by saying I was really, really tempted by the Mark II when it first came out, was first announced, and even after that dodgy video. I don't think I'm getting one.
No?
Yeah, I'm not.
It's not different enough from the Mark I, and recently they announced that a lot of the bug fixes and the new features that they can add to the Mark II firmware are going into the Mark I firmware.
Nice.
So it's kind of fixing some of the problems that I had, and it's just not... There's not enough new stuff for me to go, I'm going to get an entirely new one. Sure. And it does seem like the connectivity-wise, it's less than the Mark I. So I just want to put it out there that as excited as I am, and if I didn't have a Mark I, I'd probably scoop this up in a heartbeat. But
that's the boat that I'm in. You know what I mean? I think in our last episode, I was even talking about how I've been eyeballing an LXR again. You know what I mean? I was trying to find one secondhand, already assembled, because I didn't really feel like trying to mess with the kit. So yeah, this is really appealing to me because now I don't have to assemble one. I don't have to try to find one secondhand. I can just buy the Mark II they already come pre-assembled and it's got sliders and the whole.
Absolutely. Like if that was the boat that I was in, if I had basically not bothered to make that kit ever, I'd probably just sell the kit and go with the Mark II.
Yeah. That was one of the things that was confusing to me about that original video. Like, it was getting comments on YouTube and on Facebook where it was like posted originally. Mm-hmm. Like, people being like, "Oh my God, this sounds great." You know what I mean? Things like that. And I'm like, it sounds identical.
Yeah, it sounds exactly.
Like, it was like the LXR has been around for like a decade.
Yeah.
Like, the sound engine sounds like, as they were scrolling through the presets, I think there was only one that seemed like it utilized the delay. Yeah. And that was the only preset that sounded unique. Everything else was like, nope, okay, that sounds like an LXR. Like,
which is good.
Like all of you people leaving these comments, you can get one right now. It's been readily available.
You do see the Mark
10 years.
II, right? That means that there was a Mark I. The Mark II implies a Mark I, just putting it out there.
Yeah, it's appealing to me, but not because it's like offering any crazy new sonic capabilities. It's just the fact that it's like conveniently already assembled and has a few hardware tweaks like the sliders and shit. But
yeah, I'm sure they made it all surface mount because the OG is through hole, which made it bigger. Yeah, so they were able to shrink it down a little, bring it back for people who don't want to build one, which is understandable. Because even the 60 knobs, I don't know. You got one of the last kits for that. I don't think that's easy to get right now.
No, I don't think so. Even when I got it, I kind of assumed I'd have trouble finding one. So yeah. It's not readily available. And it adds, I mean, LXR is already pretty big. This adds basically the same footprint right beside it. Mm-hmm. So between the two of them, it's a pretty substantial amount of space where Mark II, everything about it's smaller.
Yeah. It is a shame they couldn't get the trigger outs on it though, because those are super nice. And they're gate outs. Like, they're as long as the drum sound is, which when you figure that out, it's like, okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. Totally agree.
Yeah, I made a overview list of some of the pros and cons compared to the original.
We'll lay it on us.
Well, I guess just in case nobody's familiar, if they haven't ever heard of an LXR or heard our previous episodes before, it's a drum machine at its most basic function. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it's 6 channels with 7 sequencer tracks. The 7th extra track being dedicated to the open hat. Yep. Has generative functions, step probability. You can generate full sequences at random. It's got micro steps. It's got parameter locks. It's
FM.
It's FM and digital, but it also has some basic sampler capabilities. You can't sample into it, but you can play waves that you can layer as transients or just as the track itself. The only thing that I know off the top of my head that it's comparable to is the Electron machine drum, which at this point goes for 3 times the fucking price of an LXR. It's not uncommon to see machine drums at this point selling for close to $3,000, whereas the LXR ones sold for I think the kits were $500.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah,
you can get the Mark I's used now since the Mark II announcement for under that. And the Mark II is selling retail at $590 USD. So under $600, you're getting a pretty fully fucking functional digital drum machine.
It's a great deal.
Plus, the per track features. You got an LFO per track that you can assign to any other track if you want. That kind of set the standard for me when I had my LXR the first time. And I've been struggling to figure out why manufacturers don't do that on other gear, like Electron, Digitac, or the Digitone.
Like the machine drum did. That was the only one you could arbitrarally assign LFOs, and everything after that, it was just one per track.
It's and that was an Electron device. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I'm like, what the fuck? If this open source LXR device can do that today, why the fuck can't you find that on Electron's most current gear 10 years later?
Right.
I actually just thought of something about the second LXR. I wonder if they increased the parameter lock memory. Because on the first one, you can run out real easily. Actually, you end up overwriting them, is what you don't maybe realize at first.
True.
And if they made that so it was kind of like an Electron device where it was almost infinite or more than you need, that'd be a pretty big selling point for me, maybe.
I would hope so, because they seem to have boosted the sequencing memory at least. It's up to 64 step now. instead of 16 like on the OG.
It's another nice feature for sure.
That might also come in the firmware update for the Mark 1s.
With the subset and subsequences per step, you could expand that beyond 16.
True. Yeah.
So they've always had a little bit more than just the 16 that you get on the Surface. But there were still limitations to that too, like how much subsequencing you could do.
And then, like, I just have a basic list of the improvements of Mark II over Mark 1. Sliders, no assembly required. 64-step sequencing. They've added a delay effect, which, from what I can tell, is global.
Seems global.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I would be way more excited if that was a per-track delay.
That would be that would be pretty cool.
And from the brief demo I saw of the delay, it seems I can get down into like really tight, almost car plus strong type territory, which is what I was really curious about. That's what I wanted to see. Because that's kind of been something I've been messing with a lot lately on drum sequencing, is very tight delays in my feedback path and my overdrive path, you know what I mean, to add extra texture. It's something I used to do in software a lot back in the day, and it's something I've been getting back into. And, well, even with hardware, I used to use the old realistic reverb as like a very tight slapback delay slash feedback texture in the mix, you know what I mean, on per channel shit. So you can't really find many drum machines that have that type of like per track effect, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of Electron stuff also doesn't have dedicated outs that you could route through pedals to achieve that, so it's frustrating. LXR has 4 dedicated outputs that you can assign any track to, so that's nice, very nice, and I think a step over most Electron shit as well for effecting. And then the last pro I have listed there is future proofing. Doesn't seem to be any reason to doubt that Erica will continue to like keep tabs on this, you know what I mean, and fix any bugs, update firmware, possibly add more features, whereas like Sonic Potions has just been kind of like stale with that for many years. And then for the cons, like Nick pointed out, no CV trigger in out panel anymore.
Just
no gates out. Yeah. Does have the analog clock in out, which is nice that they kept that at least.
It's always, I wonder if they're going to fix that, because that was always one of the weirdest parts.
It didn't ever work right for me. And I just assumed that was my shitty soldering. Like I thought I fucked up my expander.
Even at its best, there was one way that I kind of got it to work, but it wasn't. Something's wrong with it.
I remember you pointed that out to me, because like I struggled with it for a whole afternoon. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing wrong? Like, why can't I sync this through clock properly? And then you point out, you're like, no, it just doesn't really work, man. I was like, oh, okay.
Thankfully, being late to the game, I tried it once and was like, maybe it's somehow working for me. Didn't work. I'm like, okay, I'm just giving up. I already know this is a problem.
So yeah, no CV panel. And it's unclear if Mark II will be available as a kit, which might be a pretty big con for some people. Not at all? Okay. Yeah. I mean, that doesn't really deter me, but I'm sure that's going to be a pretty big issue for some people. And then also unclear if the Bastel 60 knob companion controller will be compatible in any way with this.
That'd be a real bummer if they didn't allow that to work, especially if they're basing it off the same original 0.37 firmware that does support the 60 knobs. You would think if you do nothing, it's supported.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's still there, and if it is, I mean, and Bastel goes back to actually making them a little bit more readily available, and this might be the motivation for them to do it.
Yeah. Worst case, maybe they have to change some of the assignments for CC, and you just need a new preset for the 60 knobs, I would hope. Because that's the one thing they did address, is the polyphonic MIDI input, basically. So they added that feature from the B. Clark firmware, but that's the very thing that broke the 60 knobs compatibility. So they'll have to make some choices. It'll be interesting to see how that works.
And it's also that B. Clark firmware version is pretty old at this point. I wonder if there's something else that could have been done.
Right. Maybe they just have a new CPU and more, capability now or something.
So, Greg, at this point, do you think you're going to try to get one?
I think absolutely, yeah. I don't want to pre-order it, but it seems like, I mean, there's already people with the demo units. It's out there in the wild a little bit. It seems like this is coming up soon. According to Erica Synths, they expect it to start shipping early August. All like the major manufacturers that I've looked at are already accepting orders for it. Like Detroit Modular, Perfect Circuit, Control Mod, all that shit. So,
and Erica has a pretty good track record for actually delivering on shit that they
do
put together.
So I want to wait till it's actually released. But yeah, I think I'll definitely be getting one in the near future.
Nice.
If I have to sell a couple more things to come up with the funds, then I'll do it. But I think it's great. It looks like great value for the money, you know. And I've been tempted by getting an LXR1 already recently. So yeah, I think it's kind of like a no-brainer for me to scoop one of these up.
Yeah, such a good drum machine.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I use the shit out of it all the time now.
I'm fiending for a Mark II right now, kind of, even though it's ridiculous and goes back on something I've said in the past, but I really kind of want a Mark II rhythm, new black one.
Same.
Yeah. It's the sampling feature of it, too, that's really appealing. Like hearing you and Luke talk about like sampling with the tracker and how much fun that is. Like there's something that's really appealing, just getting a new machine, like blank, starting over, sampling a bunch of modular stuff, having two of them kind of DJ style, like something like that. So I may have sent an email to Electron to see if I can use my past beta testing credentials to get a discount like I have in the past. And if they do, I might do something rash.
Nice. That's the only reason why I don't have one right now is that price.
It's fucking expensive.
It's crazy.
$1,700.
Yeah. Wait, I thought it was even more than that now.
The new Black Mark IIs you can get them new for $1,700.
Okay. For some reason, I was thinking they were like 21.
People try to. I don't know why.
Or is that just
people
inflation
will try
that I'm
to
seeing?
sell them
Okay.
on Reverb like for more than you can get it
Gotcha.
from Sweetwater right now.
Okay.
I don't get that.
Yeah. Okay. Because I was like, I swear I saw it being listed at like 2,100 on Reverb and stuff like that. But that's why it's okay. It's just market inflation for no good reason.
Because it's for a lot of the reasons I didn't want to get one. Like some of they're like dedicated bank buttons now instead of the way on the Mark I where you switch between the top 4 rows and the bottom 4. Some minor shit like the performance control. The new one looks pretty good. The screen looks nice. The individual outs for everything that aren't the stereo pairs that I have on mine that I kind of have to use a weird cable for. It's a little shit like that.
No, it's the little shit that makes a big difference. You know what I mean? Like
especially for something I fucking love that much.
Yeah.
I kind of want the new one.
The Rhythm was like the last great drum machine that I really loved as well, but it was far from perfect. You know what I mean? And like the little tweaks that they added to the Mark II, I'm like, okay, those are all things that I was complaining about on the first one. I'm glad that they addressed some of those things, but yeah, I don't know. At the same time, I'm just like, holy fuck, this is an expensive machine now.
So
you know
much.
what I mean? 17, that's a little more justifiable. Over 2 Gs though, I'm like, you know, it's like. That's up there with like the fucking Pulsar.
Totally.
And what else? That new FM one, the
Motor.
The Motor.
Yeah.
I think it's what is it? The DR2 or
Something
DR1 or something.
Yeah,
I
something
can't
like that,
remember what it's called. And like the Alpha Bass, like all
which
these drum machines that seem like they're just covering like what you would expect from a modern drum machine, but like astronomical prices. You know what I mean? Like I think it all started with the Tempest. Really, like that was a pricey machine, and it raised the bar. But at the same time, that machine was like justifiably expensive.
That was an exceptional machine.
Yeah.
They did a bunch of new, interesting stuff.
Right.
Same with the machine drum user wave. That was like more expensive than my first fucking car when I bought that thing.
It is now.
Oh yeah, now
they're
it's
selling for $2,300 and up.
It's
holy shit.
That's the
Seriously?
cheapest ones that I found. Some of them are going for $3,000 and up.
Yeah, especially if they're
Right now.
user wave Mark IIs, you're gonna pay like $3,000 probably.
Yeah, it's kind of insane to me. That's
I had
all
no
the more
idea.
reason why the LXR is so appealing right now.
Yeah.
The Mark II, because it's like you're not going to really get anything more out of a machine drum user wave Mark II compared to an LXR. You know what I mean?
Not 5 times as much based on that price.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, I don't know. I think those will sell like fucking hotcakes for people who are interested in a machine drum like platform and aren't a like Electron purist. You know what I mean? If they want that functionality and they're willing to go with like an off-brand type of thing, you know what I mean? Like the LXR is kind of like no-brainer there.
It does highlight. I mean, we do this annually, but I just don't know what the fuck Electron is doing.
Yeah.
It's just like re-release the machine drum, make it based to like just, you know, don't even leverage the old code. Just make a new one that does the same thing. Like I don't know. I don't get them. That's a gap still.
There's a lot of people that seem to be speculating that like they're kind of fucked now with the data line leaving. Like,
they might just be a shell of a company that's like, I don't know, we know how to make these things that we already designed.
Yeah, exactly. That's what a lot of people
now.
were saying on forums I was reading. Like, there's a lot of speculation on the Mod Wiggler thread and even on the Electronauts forum and shit like that. Like, people were thinking that, like, there's not going to be anything new coming from Electron at this point, except maybe some other thing that they can slap into, like, a modal
That's
box.
what I keep wondering. Like, why don't they do like a physical modeling one, or like they could make flavors of that would be interesting. I would think, and like use that. But I know that sounds like so surface level easy. I don't know what tech they're really working with there, but it's just fucking boring. And they used to be like,
very innovative.
They're making all the monies. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
People still want Octatracks. People would love an overbridge Octatrack, and they've been asking for 10 years for that. So weird. Yeah, my rhythm Mark 1's getting a little crusty. There's some glitch with the samples that still happens where it does this weird like aliasing, and I can like reset the sound. And I don't use sounds on there, but it's kind of like a preset for it.
No, I had that happen on mine. Back in the day.
It does
I use
mine.
Yeah,
I kind of like am annoyed by that, but whatevs.
Yeah, and thus ends the Electron Corner.
I mean, it wouldn't be an episode if we didn't at least bitch about Electron.
It's been a couple of episodes. It's been, we were long overdue.
I'll edit this out if they give me a discount.
Electron is great.
I even replied to the last email from like 2 years ago where they gave me the discount on the lids to be like, see, remember you did this before? Because that time they were like, no, we got a new POS system. I'm like, that's cool. I went to White Whale yesterday to try to get the High Static Deadlines book, which they had in stock before, but they had to order. And like they had a new point of sale system, and it was just like I fucking crushed that system. They're like, how do we get a Strange Attractor book, through this? And it was like, we can like just figure it out tomorrow is what they landed on. It's like, okay, I'm sorry I broke your system. It smashed it to pieces.
Congratulations.
Thanks, I think.
So Greg, what else is on your list?
I'm gonna go buy a book now.
Yeah, that's the place.
Talking about. I feel like I babbled enough. Anyone else want to kick off something? You got I don't even know how to pronounce it though.
I think it's Moskwa or Moscow or apparently it's Moscow. My partner let me know. I've been calling it the Moskwa because I just think that's sounds
phonetic.
Right. Yeah,
W.
The W, the V and the W. That seems like but I also got the expander for it, which is Ostankino,
maybe.
Let's go with that.
We'll roll with that.
Ostankino, because the problem is like seeing it spelled out like this. Stank really stands out to me, and I want to emphasize that.
Ostankino.
Yeah, that cannot be right.
But this is the new version of it, the Mark II.
This is the Mark II of their roto sequencer
from
Xoac.
Chaos Devices, aka Xoac.
Yeah.
Zach.
I still can't do it. It's still gonna be Xoac. Full disclosure, I only tinkered with the first version of it a long time ago, like at KnobCon.
Yeah.
Like one of those things where I was like half interested. Just was like, didn't really. I was like, I don't need this. And this is cool, but this isn't necessarily what I'm looking for. And so this popped up, and I watched a video of it, and I was like, this is adding a lot of cool stuff. It seems like it's taking it out of you're just going around in a circle. It's not a trace light around a circle, which is what I was like, really looking for was something that was not bound to either a grid or a line. So it's on the surface, it's 8 steps. Starting in a circle, starting at 12 o'clock and going around. And you can either have it in step mode, where each step is basically its own unique step, or pattern, where each of these steps has its own subsequence or sub-pattern within it. And there's a lot of control over the individual patterns themselves. So you basically control each one, like how many steps are within the subsequences, whether or not, and this is the thing that I think is really cool, whether or not the steps within the subsequence are fractions within the master step or their own proper steps. And you have control over that per step.
Ooh. That's a nice twist on how the LXR does it.
Exactly. I was, and even just playing with, I've only had this for like a week now, so this is not going to be a deep dive into this, but I feel like I've confident enough now that this is something I really like, so that's why I'm talking about it. But being able to switch per step, having like a quick ratchet where I've got some number of steps between the major steps, going through them really quickly versus, expanding this out to like a 64-step sequencer at the maximum range. And you can switch between pattern and step on the fly. It's all real-time switching. And there's a custom mode. So instead of just going around in a circle, you can basically like tap in your own pattern that you want it to be. So you can have it bounce around. And I don't know what the upper limit of it. I think it's like 256 of these custom steps you can have.
Yeah.
But that's also entering and leaving that mode is a button. So it's really for like performing. You can like basically let it go around in a circle or basically go through its normal pattern and then hit that, and then it'll start bouncing around the pattern that you have. And it's additive. Like if you basically were like, you got like n number of steps in there, you hit it, shift, and you start adding more, it just tacks them on to the end of your custom sequence.
Oh shit.
And that also can get saved as part of the preset. And so there's a bunch of presets for actually saving and loading, and it includes your custom sequences. On top of that, you've got random, slew, and probability all as non-binary. So like you add a certain amount of like a little bit of random, or you crank it up and it's just basically completely out of step, like it's out of step. That, with the expansion, is CVable. So you can just have it like not random at all, and then CV send it, and then switch between variations of random. Slew is the same way. Slew is actually per step. You set what mode and what behavior you want per step. And the last one is probability. So probability is how much it's going to switch all of the different configurations that you have per step. Probability itself is a global setting, like you say, like I'm going to increase the probability, but the response to that probability is evaluated per step. So they don't all just shift in unison. You'll have one, like they're just sort of morphing. They're all getting that same probability value, but they're all morphing in unique ways.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it's and so it has its own clock divider. So it has its, like, you can have internal rate, or it takes a clock in, or has a divider and multiplier. You can set the number of steps and what it resets. Again, those are all also CVable based on, and I guess I should point out that every time I keep saying it's CVable, a lot of this is on the expander.
Right.
So what you get if you just buy this is you get transport, on and off, reset, and direction. So the other thing too is like you can just start going backwards.
That's nice.
And external clock coming in, and then finally you've got gate out and CV out. And what's really interesting, and I don't know if the original one had this or not. It's not something I'd like dove into, but you can set different steps on and off. And even if you, as it's going over a step, if it's off, I'm using double quotes here, it just means it doesn't send a gate out, but the CV for that step still goes out.
So like analog style.
Yeah.
Is there a way to make that not analog style, so that if it's off completely and just skips that step?
No, the only options you have for that are whether the gate is trigger, half, or full gate. Otherwise, the CV continues to go out as it goes over that. That's a good question though. And the expander adds a couple of things that are just completely not available on the base model.
Yeah, I'd have to get the expander if I
absolutely. And it's
necessary.
It's not that big. Like it's they pack a lot of stuff into this expander. And so this is where you're going to get all of this, like the CV for all of the other stuff. And it also includes a per step out. So you actually get for each of them
gate
for each of them.
That's awesome.
Or independently, which I think is which is a pretty nice feature.
Yeah, the surge sequencer that I have works that way too.
Yes. That's at the high level.
Question about the randomness. Is it destructive? Or can you like have something CVing the randomness of that and then revert back to your base pattern?
That's a very good question. It is completely non-destructive. And that's so as you're hitting that random, and especially if you're sending CV to that going absolutely crazy, the second you pull that back or turn that knob back all the way off, it just reverts back to the pattern that was in. And you can do some cool stuff. This reminded me a little bit of the Electron style of like when you load a preset in, it's instantaneous. So you can just go absolutely nuts and go.
So this is like a fully digital sequencer that has like a very analog vibe.
Absolutely.
Basically. Okay.
That's a very good way to describe it. And that's one of the things where I was like, really, this is really appealing to me. And I didn't realize it was really what I was looking for.
I'm definitely very tempted by this in some ways. It has a lot more features than the Surge sequencer, but still like 8 steps. The only thing it lacks is like another CV out, and I get why, because that wouldn't make sense for this. But then the more I think about it, it's more like I think about how I could use the Performer to sequence the Surge to sequence this, and it's like, fuck.
You've gone down a rabbit hole at that point.
Yeah. It sounds like a fun one, though.
Honestly, too, I was a little worried that there's a lot of button combinations to do that stuff. But honestly, within an hour, I'm bouncing around this thing, doing all of the stuff. And the panel, like, it has labels for all of it. Like, everything is pretty upfront about what they're like. Even when you're going and doing the per step editing, press down the button for that step, you're editing it. What is all of the lights then say what is on or off for that step. And
cool.
And a lot of the settings have the same thing. Like quantize, you could turn quantize on or off, but quantize is based on the, different scales, and the scales are written right here. So you hold down quantize for a couple of seconds, it pops up, and whatever, if you are quantized to say like chromatic, that button's pressed. You press another one, you're now in a different scale.
Can you CV rotate a sequence? Or rotate it at all?
No.
Oh, okay.
That is, but I never even thought about doing something like that. That's a cool idea, but no, there's no, like this step one is kind of fixed to step one.
I love that they don't have a screen on it or even like any indicator. Because not to totally derail, but that Shakmat Harlequin's context, which I really like. I wish they'd made it simpler at the end of the day, and just like a bank in like 4 banks of 4 presets. Let me set the position, and that's fucking it, basically.
I'm 100% on the same team with that. I love it, and I'm definitely gonna use it for the. I'm gonna be using the palette for like live shit, Delusion palette, and the Harlequin's context, and paired up with Platts, and the filter that's running into it's working great. There's a couple times I'm like, wait, what did I just do?
Yeah.
Fuck, and I'm getting confident to the point where I'm feeling okay using it live, but I've definitely at home sitting there kind of going like, I actually don't know what mode I'm in right now.
Yep.
And that is, and even reading the book, I'm just like, this is 3 pages too long. They really should have just like pulled this back just a little bit, because it's features that are like, it has a little bit of that vibe of like, well, we can do it. Well, you didn't actually check to see if you should.
Right, because it's much more confusing knowing, like, what does that letter stand for?
Yes.
Oh, that's a sine wave, and I'm in LFO mode. I don't really give a fuck about that right now.
But you're in a different mode, so now all of those shapes mean something else.
Yeah.
And that's what I was like, oh, I wish I always knew that, like, that little squiggly thing was the saw up, and that just always was. And A always meant one thing, and that's, like, not having that is, like, it's just a bridge too far, and it's not. I still like it, and I think what it does is fucking amazing and worthwhile. I just wish they would have backed off.
I wish they would make like a dumb mode that just did like offsets in the banks like that and nothing else. I would not be mad at that,
because that's what I'm doing with it. It's like I've got everything set up where I got the scenes and the acts, and I'm gonna bounce between them. I want A to do that, and now I want to do something different, and now it's simple stuff, e.g. offsets, some LFO, maybe with taking a gate to reset, like that. That's all I want. Everything after that, I'm not going to use, and it's just kind of maddening.
It's embarrassing, but even scenes and acts, I keep confusing which one is the parent of the other one because I wasn't in fucking theater, so I don't know this.
No, I'm the same way.
It doesn't make sense to me. Whereas like banks and presets, I'm like, oh yeah, like bank. If you name it bank, then maybe I should just remember that one is the bank.
Or just scratch it out on the panel.
I'm getting close to that. It's also a white panel, and their panels aren't bad, but I like,
Oh, going back to this. This is, I got the silver panels for both of these just because that's what was immediately available. Yeah. They've got black panels for both of these.
Fuck.
And I'm, the second I can get one, 100% getting the black panel versions of both of these. So I'm sold on it. Like I can see using this for a long time, and I even just the couple of days that I've had it, getting a ton of use out of it. Like it immediately became like I was comfortable using it. Started using it for all kinds, like even just like doing like the difference between like oh, I'm gonna use this for like notes and playing a melody.
Oh yeah, so I was just gonna ask. And
then switching it up and going like now I'm just using it as a CV sequencer for something else.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I honestly the list of complaints I would have at this point are I don't have one. I mean, maybe by the next time I show up, I'll have some complaints, but everything's super intuitive and it's doing what I want.
Can you make it be bipolar or unipolar?
You absolutely can. Thank you for asking.
Fuck.
That was so inorganic.
You got it wrong.
Yeah, I got it wrong earlier, so we had to retape. Yes, Nick. As a matter of fact, you can go into bipolar mode.
For each step?
No, it is a global set. And it goes from 0 to 8 or bipolar plus minus 5.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. Which I've not screwed around with too much. Honestly, I've been doing the unipolar 0 to 8.
That's probably what I would do.
Yeah, and I probably will screw around with the bipolar because going into that mode, it's shift. It's 2 button presses to get into that and switch it. There's really no harm in trying.
Fuck, so. That's cool.
Yeah. I think they nailed it again. So far, I really like the stuff that they do. Like Zadar's cold dead hands for me. Like I will never get rid of that. It's really the only 2 products of theirs that I have. But I'm like, fuck, I need to start looking at like Batumi or Odessa or some of these other products they make because it's sort of like that noise engineering thing where I'm like, I feel like we're on a similar wavelength. And yeah, this is I think they nailed it.
How much did it run you?
Oh,
no, I was just according to Perfect Circuit, the sequencer itself will run you 420. The expander is 200.
That sounds about what I paid for it.
Yeah,
seems appropriate as well.
Okay,
but you got to get that coupon code going.
Yeah, get that holiday 10% discount.
Everyone knows about coupon codes, right?
Coupons.
Just try the last holiday. And the last 2 digits of the year, it might still be working.
Generally, yeah.
So yeah, that's my overview. I like I said, I may have more to say as I dive further and further into it, but it's got a place in the rack, and it's also filling in a gap. That the only other thing I had close to it was that RYO VC sequencer that is cool, but I immediately moved to the video rack. That's really the only thing it's really good for, like audio stuff. It really is just an 8-step analog sequencer. Turns out not super useful.
Kind of the opposite of that. Yeah. No options.
Yeah. And it's good for video stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not gonna lie. That's basically the end of my my list. My list was talking about how excited I was about the LXR firmware stuff going back in the V1.
Solid addition.
Yeah,
definitely.
Nick, you have
you're cheating.
Cosmix on there.
That's the only other one I think I want to
You're
touch
cheating.
on.
You're looking at the spreadsheet.
Fuck.
Yes.
It's true. I see the fucking spreadsheet being manipulated in real
I
time.
am. I'm tapping it.
Holy shit.
Watching it.
That's trippy.
Through the cloud.
Wow. Technology.
We're all IT professionals in some way, shape, or form.
When I tap that input box on this computer, I see it update on the other.
Whoa.
How does that work?
Black magic.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the Cosmotronic Cosmix, though, I did happen to get one of those through Control Mod. A couple popped up. They've been out of stock for a hot minute because he was working on the Mark II. And I think there may have been some component issues with the Mark I or something too. But yeah, I'm super into it. I've tried a few Eurorack mixers now, including the Pittsburgh modular one, which the system interface, which was kind of the first like little mini console within a Eurorack modular I had, which was cool, but had a number of issues, some bleed, and just the mute switches were kind of funky. So yeah, this Cosmix is pretty rad. For the most part, it sounds great. Like it's got that, you've talked about the dual band maximizer before. You've talked about all this in a previous episode.
Can we get for the listeners a high level overview?
Oh yeah. So high level overview, you've got 4 mono, 2 stereo inputs, an aux send that's mono, the regular output, the maximizer dual band boost, which you can turn on and off globally. And then you've got each individual channel, and I'm glad that they marked this. On the fader throw, up like 50%-ish is just normal, 0 to 100%, and then everything above that is distortion, saturation kind of, which is really nice. So you've got, it's like pretty bare bones, and mute switches across the top, which are clickless. I don't know if the first one was clickless too.
It's clickless.
Oh, okay.
So you have the Mark II then?
I do. I got the new Mark II, which also allows for the big differences. You can chain them now.
Okay.
Behind the panel, there's a little 3-pin connector, and you can chain Mark I or Mark II as long as you have a Mark II at the end. You can chain Mark Is or Mark II, so you can pass that entire group of signals into the next one before any distortion. So you can get a clean input and then just redistort everything on the whole on the last one in the chain.
Interesting.
I think you can do that with like up to 8 of them or something ridiculous. Oh, you do? Mark I.
But they're both Mark Is, yeah.
Oh, I forgot
you got me thinking maybe I'll swap one of those out. Try the new jam.
That would make sense.
Does the output for each of the ones that are a part of the chain, does the output of them are they still active, or are they sort of turned off and like there's like a master out at the end?
That's a good question. I don't know exactly how that works. I think it just sums it, but I don't know where it would pick that to. If it just forwards it all to like the mix out. That's probably how it works, and you just got it there transparently at whatever levels you have set on the other one.
Because otherwise they'd be basically just still be independent.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. True. So it's got to be doing that. So you have like that parent sum.
Right.
Pre-distortion.
Yeah, I didn't know the Mark IIs were even out. I knew that he was, they were being discussed at one point. I thought you just had a Mark I. Like I have. That's cool. I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah, because I think they're all Mark II now. Yeah, it just popped up on Control Mod one day, like not really announced. And then they announced, like, we've got a bunch of stores with them. Because Perfect Circuit had a pre-order, but Control Smart, they didn't even ship mine until a few days later, and that's when Perfect Circuit had theirs in stock too. So they got me. Success. But yeah, I love how it sounds like just a little bit of that saturation goes a long way and can make a mix sound really good. Some complaints, the mute switches, and the person that makes it, they clarified it to say that there's like a FET in there, and that's why it's kind of gummy. When you mute and unmute stuff, it takes like a little bit of a second. I don't really like that about it. I will still use my mute on for live shit just because that clicklessly mutes like perfectly.
I kind of was as well. The Muton was one of the things that I sold when I was like downsizing a bit to get into here. But yeah, I was doing the same thing. Like there was a few videos I had on Instagram where like I was utilizing both Cosmotronics, but using the mutes on the Muton as like performance mutes over the ones on the Cosmotronic. Like they're a nice addition, but yeah, they're not so great for performing mutes.
That's exactly what I'm going to do.
Are the mutes CV-able? Can you send gate to the mute?
No.
Oh, okay.
Just switches.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it's got pan control for the 4 mono channels. That's the last feature that I didn't describe. But yeah, I'm super happy with it. It's got like that console feel. I do wish the mutes were a little better, but it doesn't matter because the Muton's there, and that's fine.
I'm still a big fan of mine as well.
Yeah,
like
it sounds great.
Yeah.
No complaints. It's definitely the thing I was looking for. Good layout.
Do you know if they changed anything between the Mark I and the Mark II as far as the overdrive or distortion circuit?
Yeah, they apparently made it cleaner. So I don't know. Some of that was affected. What else did they do? Oh yeah, the sliders. They apparently made them a little better, which I'm glad because I can't imagine them being like too much worse. They're not like the best throw. It's kind of like off, on kind of thing without that much resolution, but it does the trick. Like it still does the job. Apparently that was a little more inconsistent on the Mark 1 and some of them were different.
They are. Yeah, you can compare channels on some of them and the volume will not be 100% consistent.
It's got fucking trim pots on the back to control the level of each one so you can make it perfect.
Oh,
too,
gotcha.
The Mark 1 doesn't have.
So you're sold on this as a solution?
Oh yeah, I can't imagine not using it. I don't know what would take its place aside from even the WMD performance mixer is great, but compared to the like size, costs, ratio, it's like I can't imagine going to that. It would be cool if these were also VCAs like that is, but that's like asking too much in a way.
Right.
And I have the VCAs already in the Muton, so it works out perfectly. But yeah, super stoked on it. I'm so glad I got it. There was the rug that tied the modular together a little again.
That's kind of how I felt too.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it really, I don't know. It tied everything together in that rig. You know what I mean? Like, and I sold all my other mixing modules that I had, unless you count like Tangle Quartet or something, but I don't really use that as a submixer, even though you can. Like that's more like an attenuator VCA dedicated for me.
Totally.
And
I love.
I never use the mix out on the Tangle.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever touched it.
Oh yeah, I have a few times. No, I generally don't though.
I just got mine's right beside my stereo mix from Bafako. So
that's where mine generally was too, and that was actually kind of the plan. I was hoping to not, in a way, use the Muton for the mutes. But it doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
Mutons, I think, are hard to come by now.
They're discontinued for some reason.
That's
I don't know why. It's such a good module. Maybe they just couldn't get the part anymore or something.
Maybe not everyone recognized what a great module it is, and it didn't sell well. It wouldn't be the first thing that people didn't figure out why they needed it.
Yeah. It's got this weird like purple and blue panel color accent too, and I really fucking love that. I don't know. Wish more things were like that. I've been on a purple kick. I'm weird.
Purple.
Same here. I mean, not with like modular stuff, but just in general. Like I've realized like when I've been doing video stuff recently. Ooh, purple. Just leaning into it. Yeah. I don't know why.
It's a cool, weird color.
Like that or purple. And I'm like, I haven't even like enjoyed a pair of shoes in a long time. I just fucking love the color. Freaks me out.
Purple.
Yeah.
I feel like purple is a very psychedelic color.
Yeah, definitely.
It like stirs something in the brain.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
like
I even like pastel purple too, like this like lilac shit, and I'm like, yeah, fucking right. I don't know.
I don't know what this. We should probably look this up. This might mean something.
Yeah, maybe we're having some issues, more issues than normal.
That I would believe in a heartbeat. Yeah.
What else was I going to talk about? KnobCon. Are we going to KnobCon? Who could tell?
KnobCon.
It's a good question. So
I don't know how I feel about that. Well, it depends.
My main worry is that there's nothing going to be there. That it's too late for anyone to really organize a significant trip like this. But like the result of that could be there's not so much focus on manufacturers and like the show space, and it basically turns into like a synth meet instead.
Like it was for the first year or two.
That would be really cool. Like the potential for this to turn into like a KnobCon that we would actually have fun at is, I think, a little bit better than it was as it got more and more focused on like shows and reveals and the manufacturer focus. That's where I'm at. And, you know, I'm vaccinated and I assume we're going to have a booster between now and then.
I think we always do a very good job at entertaining ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Without question.
So like probably find a way to do that this time too. Plus it's Chicago. Things are starting to pop off again.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason why we can't just hit the shit during the day and then just drive to fucking Chicago for the evening and fucking find something going on. You know,
the worst case scenario is this convention is terrible and we have a hotel room and we just go hang out in Chicago all weekend.
Yeah.
That's really like the absolute worst that could happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's a long drive to gamble on, but
Truth.
it's been 2 years since we've made that drive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like we could do it. I'm kind of into the idea of it. I wasn't at first, but
Yeah, same.
but I'm kind of warming up to it a lot over the last couple of weeks. I'm like, that sounds like that would be fucking cool. But also, I'm kind of interested in just seeing Chicago again. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like spending some time in the city proper. I don't think we've done that in a long time, aside from like stopping at a place to eat.
Right.
Yeah, I'd be into it if you guys are.
I think I'm into it. And it will give us something to complain about when we get back for an episode.
Exactly. Yeah. It's all about generating content.
We are content creators and influencers.
Or we could try to do an episode when there.
We always say that, but it never works.
And I think we all know why.
Because we get
fucking destroyed.
Like everyone's right.
Because we're getting white girl wasted
at the fucking metal bar.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna go back and we're gonna record. No, we're not. That's absolutely not what we're doing.
All right, we're gonna go downstairs to the shitty rave, and then we're gonna come back up and we're gonna record. Nope.
No.
So yeah, listeners, we're probably gonna be at NobCon. Look us up. You have no idea what we would look like. Yeah. Well, no, I guess there's pictures of us.
Never mind. I fucking hate that picture. We need a new goddamn picture.
Oh yeah. I'd be into it.
I look so miserable in that picture.
See, I look properly miserable in that picture. I love it. I mean, I'm gonna try to look the same.
Yeah.
It captures me.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, well, it doesn't capture me. I look like I don't know. I guess it does.
Well, I mean, there's nothing stopping.
You're a fucking alien mutant.
There's nothing stopping us from taking a new picture of ourselves.
That's true.
Maybe we should get someone who has like a fancy camera to make like our resident advisor level like promo shot, like a black background. We sort of fade into it.
Yeah. Under a bridge, all in a different pose, all looking in a different direction.
Hell yeah. Oh,
yeah, wait,
we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
Go big.
Absolutely.
Or go home. Yeah, I'm on board with this.
I feel like that's something we got to do in the fall though, because we all have to wear a hoodie for sure. Yeah. Got to have a hoodie.
Yeah, I don't look my best in the summer. I'm just gonna be sweating. There's like no way for that to stop. You two look fine. I'm just.
Dude, my hair turns into a fucking poof ball when it's hot. I hate it. But it's kind of under control right now, little bit, but not really.
If you told me you intended to do that, I would have believed it.
No, that's just how I woke up. I said, all right, that works. I looked at it in the mirror and said, good enough. But, I mean, this is after wearing like a fucking VR helmet on it for 6 hours straight and somehow still managed to be somewhat kempt looking, I guess.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah. So is that it?
I have one more thing.
Ooh, what you got?
British Noise Electronics.
Oh, yes.
Cascading FET amplifier module. Pretty excited about it.
Well, let everyone know, what is it?
So, first off, it doesn't have like a proper name that I've seen. They're literally just calling it Cascading FET amplifier. So I have a proposal. We can call it the CasFetA. CasFetA.
Like feta, like the cheese?
CasFetA, yeah.
CasFetA?
Okay.
CasFetA Day.
CasFetA.
Kind of like Enosk.
Yeah.
CasFetA.
CasFetA.
Fucking monster.
The accent on the first part too. CasFetA.
CasFetA. What do you think? Is that good?
Well, until you reminded me of the... Yeah, no.
Enosk. Yeah.
God damn it.
Basic overview, and that's just what I've been able to glean from the Instagram demos. Just 4 channels of amplification with dedicated feedback knob for each channel and CV control for each feedback channel. And from what I can tell, a basic like 2-band EQ at the top for sub and high-end frequencies. Each of those 2-band channels has a button next to it with like a little circle, so I'm guessing that is where the feedback on-off is coming from. Like maybe you can only feedback the high channels or low channels if you want, or both, or none.
But it's not like a different mode.
I'm not entirely sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
that could also be what switches it, because British Noise Electronics, aka Anselm, said in a post and a comment that you can use it in the cascading mode or stereo mode. So maybe that's what the channels are doing.
Okay.
Not
Be it unless it's behind.
entirely sure. Yeah. But yeah, conceptually, I fucking love it. Like, it reminds me very much of how I use my Mackies. You know, 4 channels of cascading preamps with basic 2-channel EQ in between each channel, and I usually have a channel dedicated for feedback. This is like that, but in a compact module and CV control over the feedback, which is just fucking mind-blowing to me, because there really isn't much out there that offers CV over feedback control unless you're, using a bunch of other shit like VCAs and stuff.
Dark Matter has it.
Dark Matter does it, but it's only one channel. The whole module is only one channel.
Right.
And the fact that you can have 4 stacked on each other, like that's, in my opinion, the way I fuck with shit, that is where a lot of the magic comes from when you push preamps into interesting territory, is to stack them. You start layering it, and you have feedback in between, and it just makes the whole system unstable. That's the shit that I fucking love. And like this, that's what always kind of bothered me about Dark Matter. It didn't feel like it was offering me much over what I could already accomplish with my mixers and a VCA or my Mackie.
Right,
what I mean? The Crossfader was a cool novelty, but overall, I didn't really dig the sound of the Dark Matter. It sounded a little too nasally for me as far as the overdrive goes, and the low end a little too muddy. That's just me being super fucking picky.
Right. Well, so for the for this, do you know what the preamps are modeled on?
No clue.
Okay.
But I'm guessing a fucking old Mackie probably was some sort of inspiration for this or not. I should probably ask him, because I am curious. I don't know if this is, something entirely of his own, design, or if this was meant to emulate some sort of old preamps that he was already familiar with. But I'm guessing just because of the workflow of it and how it reminds me of the Mackie, that this is probably, he was probably fucking around on a Mackie or an old similar mixer and had the same thought, like, make this a module. So yeah, conceptually, I'm all about this. The sound from the Instagram demos also sound really good to me, even though it's in a a compressed Instagram video or whatever.
Yeah, that does sound good.
It's similar to their other modules. It seems to have that proper level of low end and crunch on top that I enjoy. Obviously, you're not going to be buying this for clean mixing. You know what I mean? Like this kind of, it's pretty upfront for what you would be using this for, and it's destructive distortion feedback manipulation. Yeah, the only downside about it so far is that it does not seem like it's going to be available anytime soon.
Really? Did they give an estimate?
He showed me a screenshot of some of the component availability estimates through his providers. And right now it looks like some of the components, if he still tries to use those components, would be years worth of waiting before he could crank this out in mass. So for now, I guess there's just a handful that he's made as like prototypes that he's like making these Instagram demos with. They look fucking great. They sound great. But yeah, I'm going to try to not get too overly hyped for it. Probably not going to be able to get my hands on one anytime soon. But
I will say, I think they have some of the best looking modules in the game right now. I don't know. Something about the aesthetic and the knobs and everything. It's just like, okay, I wish more people would take a little bit of a chance like they did.
It looks like very dated outboard gear. You know what I mean? Like that kind of matte gray finish and like the chunky knobs. I'm like, yeah, I dig it. It reminds me of, like, just looking at it reminds me of like an old Mackie or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love the matte gray feel. I liked the Xoac modules that were gray too.
Same. Yeah, that was the last thing on my list. I was very hyped about that. It kind of came out of nowhere. You know what I mean? I was not expecting to see a module like that pop up at all. You know what I mean?